Hey, I'm Jack Maxwell. Welcome to the High Road Live Q&A. This will lead up right to the top of the hour and episode 6 of the High Road. Wow, I can't believe it's been 6 already. And that'll be followed by an interview with one of our guests from the show. So what are we talking about tonight? Well, first of all, this is your time. For the next 30 minutes, you can say or ask anything at all, and we'll try to get to all your questions and comments. One thing we're doing now is what I learned this week about CBD or THC. As you know, my journey began when I came down with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And then I went through chemo and I experienced some symptoms. And basically, long story short, CBD helped with that, and also medicinal THC, which was fascinating to me because I wasn't a user and no one really that I knew of was touting it as this kind of thing. I was kind of in the dark about that, I'm saying. And it opened my eyes in more ways than one. I learned about it. I educated myself about the history and why we were lied to about that and why it's been prohibited since 1937 until recently. The 2018 Farm Bill removed the federal prohibition on hemp, and now 11 states allow recreational use of what we call marijuana, which is basically cannabis with 0.3% THC or higher. Some of it can go up to 30%. And 33 states allow it medicinally. So there's a lot to talk about, but the episode tonight will focus on the two fascinating women who became friends in college and decided, of all places, Kentucky, that they were going to get into the hemp business. And it was illegal when they met and when they talked about it. What a challenge. They were young. They had no experience. They were women. It's a male-dominated business, let's be honest. And they said, so what? To all of that. So it's a wonderful story of inspiration and triumph, not just the hemp business itself, but you'll see the powerful people they met along the way and how they started changing hearts and minds. And that's why I did the High Road itself, because when I got relief from this, and I had neuropathy, so severe nerve pain, and I couldn't sleep because I had blinding white flashes in my eyes when I closed my eyes at night. When I got relief for both of those things, from CBD and medicinal THC, I knew there had to be other stories out there. You and you and you and you, everybody. They were coming to me saying, hey, I heard that it helped you. It also helped me. So we traveled the United States. Not sure exactly how many episodes we were broadcast, but we're on week 6. We talk about the political side of it, the economic side, the social side, the medicinal side, legally, politically, everything you could think of, we will cover one episode at a time. Now, they are mini segments. And again, this will broadcast right at the top of the hour, but it won't be here. It'll be here on Facebook or YouTube, depending on where you're watching this, of course. But you'll have to click on this icon. Yusuf, can we see that? Right there. Find that either on my Facebook page or on YouTube and click on it. And at the top of the hour, that will start. And like I said, it's a mini segment, maybe 5 or 6 minutes. And then it will be followed by an interview with one of those two amazing women that you saw just right there in the picture. So there you go. But like I said, it's supposed to be your time. So any questions, any comments, any experiences you have with or had with CBD or medicinal THC, let me know. And oh, by the way, what I learned this week, actually there's a question there, and you're more important than me. So I'll get to that, and I'll tell you what I learned this week later. Galena Leslie, have never been that specific or concerned about what? I'm a daily partaker as well as have chronic pain due to an accident 17 years ago. Although pot doesn't completely get rid of pain for me, it certainly assists with getting my mind off it. I stick with sativa and once in a while indica. Well, thank you for that. And I'm glad you're getting some relief. You know, it's funny. I don't know your history, Galena, or anyone else's for that matter, but I was not a casual cannabis user for a lot of reasons, which I've covered a million times. I won't bore you with those, but I just wasn't. And but I was fine with people who did. You know, I think it's about personal choice and personal responsibility. We don't see enough of that. I'd also like to say happy Juneteenth, which celebrates, of course, the end of people being held as slaves, and that's today. Oddly enough, I posted that on my social media accounts, and someone had a problem with that. Someone said that I was a Hollywood sellout because I wanted equality, which I found very rare. You know, we don't get into politics on this. There's a time and a place for all of that. More so on Jack's Place, Sunday nights, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, same place, YouTube and Facebook. And I wouldn't even say it's politics driven. It's just the subject matter is more wide open. Here, it's about taking the high road. So we'll do that and get off of that subject and say to you if there's anything you want to talk about regarding CBD, your experiences, what you know about it, what you want to know about it. And by the way, future episodes, like I said, we cover all kinds of subjects, but we'll have more exciting guests on and doctors who will answer medical questions, because I certainly get a lot of those. But I can't answer those, of course, because I'm not qualified, as you know. But what I learned this week about CBD and medicinal THC is that there's actually a zone for everyone, and it's not the same for anyone. Very odd. In other words, if you had pain and a doctor prescribed to you opiates and they weren't working, the doctor might say, well, try a higher dose or a little more frequently. With CBD and THC, practitioners who understand how it works will oftentimes say, take less first before they say take more. And you'll find that little point, that little place where it works perfectly for you. And as I've said before, but for those watching for the first time, we all have different amounts of cannabinoid receptors in our body. So it's not the same for everyone. Hardly anyone at all has the same, like fingerprint or whatever. It's just so different for everyone. Some people are very affected. I'm sure you've seen that in your day, right? And maybe back in the day when people were getting high, someone would have a little bit and be zonked out of their minds. Another one could smoke all day and it wouldn't affect them at all. Well, now there are so many different delivery systems, whether it's vapes or gummies or tinctures or oils or salves, lotions, jellies, creams, bath bombs, everything, which is wonderful because it means it's coming more into the mainstream. And there's only one reason for that. Well, excuse me, there are several reasons for that, but the best one is because it provides relief for people. And I guess that the national conventional wisdom could no longer say this is bad because it's helping so many people. And again, I'll say that anecdotally because I can't say it scientifically because I don't know exactly what the scientific evidence is. I'm not a scientist, but so many people have been relieved of their suffering. Even animals. We do a segment upcoming where pets, 15, 16-year-old pets, even younger pets, but there was this one, his name was Benjamin Franklin. And the owner, he thought he was on his way out, gave him some CBD, pet CBD. I don't know how he did it. I think it was biscuits and maybe tinctures in the water. And the dog recovered and was jumping around like a puppy. Now, believe that or not, but that's what this gentleman says. And he was so happy telling me his story. There were tears in his eyes. And when you have love for anything, a pet, a person, and you see that their suffering has gone away, it just makes your heart swell because nobody likes to see anybody in pain unless there's something wrong with you, of course, especially pets. We don't deserve them sometimes. They're just wonderful beings. Silvana Vidal says, I recently bought a CBD tincture. How much oil do you recommend? You weren't listening. Or maybe you put that up before I said that. It's different for everybody. Now, I know there are people out there, self-styled experts, who are going to know a lot more than I do. And I don't say that sarcastically. If you know more than me, great, then maybe someone will tell you to try this amount or that. But I think it all depends, first of all, on you, the individual, but also what you're taking it for. I think that's very important as well. If it's for anxiety, inflammation, sleeplessness, pain, I don't know. So it's different for everyone. So I would never sit up here and say, I know, just because I went on this journey. And I'd rather not. Because I think you should try for yourself. And I'm sure because it's safe, you could probably take the recommended dose. Maybe it's on the bottle. I don't know. Maybe the person who sold it to you can tell you. They probably know more than me. As a matter of fact, I'm sure they do. Jennifer Vitucci, Have you found the blends of CBD and THC to work better than just CBD? I am so glad you asked that question because I discovered that somewhere along the road. But even more so this week, I was reading up on that. And it's not so much about the CBD or the THC, but the ratio. And everybody responds differently to that as well. So, yes, I believe in the full leaf, full spectrum healing. At the same time, if you take something with both CBD and THC, it's possible you will fail a drug test. Here in Arizona, somebody I know, who shall go unnamed, was working with someone in the medical community. Arizona is one of the 33 states that allow for medicinal use of marijuana. And she had a card and she used it and she'd been on it for years and was great at her job by all accounts. And a company came in and changed management, and they changed their ways. And they said, you tested positive. And she said, yes, I know. Here's my card. And they said, so what? You're fired. Now, should businesses be able to make their own rules? I suppose. Is it fair? I don't think so. But again, if they can make their own rules, it is unfortunate because she was really great at her job and everybody at that place missed her. And she wasn't doing anything illegal. So that's unfortunate. That's like saying to me, and I might be going off on a tangent a little bit, if you come in and they test you for alcohol and they fire you and you had a glass of wine the night before, how does that affect your performance now? Now, if your blood alcohol level is, if you're blowing a DUI level, 0.08, I think it's here in Arizona, some places are different. If you come in drunk, in other words, and you're handling patients or whatever you're doing, I could see that. I could see. But I mean, a tiny amount, and especially if it's legal. And by the way, because of the pain she suffered, this medicinal marijuana helped her do her job better. You could argue that. So I don't understand the stigma that is still attached to this. Another reason I did this show in conjunction with my friends at Vertical Wellness, they wanted to change the public perception of this plant. And a lot of guests on my show independently have said the same thing. If you watched the episode with Al Harrington, former NBA basketball player, first round pick, great player, great guy. Now he's into the business of cannabis. And he said the main thing he wanted to do, it wasn't about making money. He said something so smart, I thought. He said, my lifestyle's not going to change. It doesn't matter if I have 10 million or 100 million or whatever the exact numbers were. His lifestyle is going to be the same. He wanted to change our perception of what this is. And he just had such a great story about his grandmother. I'll let you go back and watch that. That's up on the YouTube and Facebook channels as well. And they'll stay there the whole time, by the way, our Facebook page and YouTube. Penny Sauer says, my dog uses CBD oil for her anxiety. I'm thinking in these, quote, uncertain times, end quote, we could all use some help with that. Got that right. Now, when you say your dog uses it, it's just a funny visual to me that your dog goes over and helps herself when she's anxious to some CBD. Let me ask you, Penny, I hope you'll get back to me. How much do you give your dog and what kind of dog is it? And how much does it weigh? Because maybe some people will follow your lead and they'll help their pets and they'll get some relief. And speaking of relief, that was the name of the company we worked with, Pet Relief, RELEAF. And we'll show you that episode as well. But tonight, I always love, I guess because I root for the underdog, when someone beats the odds on several levels. And again, think about this. Getting into any business at all, you might want to have some experience or at least knowledge about it. These two women were friends from college, best friends. And they said, let's get into this business. It's illegal, so there's that drawback. How are you going to get funding for something that's illegal? And then when it became legal, they still had very little or no experience. And they just put their heads down and worked towards it in whatever way they thought they should. But the bond of their friendship helped them, I would imagine, to get through the hard times. And there were plenty of those. And especially in Kentucky, they were so against it at one time. Yet back in the day, hemp was produced in Kentucky at an alarming rate. I mean, it was the #1 crop for a couple of 100 years until they made it illegal. So it's a natural fit for that state. So maybe they're coming around, but still, medicinal marijuana is not allowed. Recreational use, of course, is not allowed. CBD, so far. So we'll see how that goes. Did I miss a question there? Julie Kemple, thank you for addressing the negative narrative associated with a natural remedy. Do you think big pharmaceutical companies are driving this? I don't know. Thank you, Julie. Maybe. I would think, as someone once said, follow the money. Who would get hurt the most by medical marijuana being allowed in a state, or recreational, or CBD, or a combination thereof? This natural plant, who's going to get hurt the most? Probably people that make other things that do the same kind of thing, right? I would say big pharma is probably in that category. Now, I know they make a lot of money, like billions and billions, and they have very powerful lobbyists. And politicians, let's be honest, listen to lobbyists. So it might be an uphill battle for most states. But as my friend Smoke Wallen said, the genie's out of the bottle. He also says the toothpaste is out of the tube. He says a lot of clever things that way, but it's all the same. And he's exactly right. It will not go back. Now, before you call me out on the temperance movement, yes, I understand. So back in the day, before they prohibited alcohol, with the 18th Amendment in 1920, I believe it took effect, January 1920, the temperance movement was saying, alcohol does this, it does that, it'll make you evil, it'll make you lazy. Everything they could think of negative about alcohol. And of course, there were a lot of religious connotations. And back then, by numbers alone, people were a lot more religious, or a lot more, I guess, zealots as far as religious goes. Now, according to polls, it's not so much that way, which is good because we can look at science, which I think is the way to go. Not that there's anything wrong with your religion. Whatever you want to believe is great. However, the religious people had a big part of this prohibition of alcohol that stayed for 13 years on the books. I don't know that anyone has that kind of power this time. There is so much money in cannabis. The taxes are through the roof. There'll be another episode we're going to bring you with Brian Rudin, who is the creator, founder, and president, I guess, of Starbuds. That's Starbuds. And yes, that coffee company sued him and all of that stuff. But he said the biggest obstacle by far are the taxes and the government regulations. So there's a lot of money there. When I was a kid, the only place that the adults would talk about gambling was Las Vegas. So everybody wanted to go out to Vegas and see Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis, Bob Hope telling jokes. And that was the big thing for adults from Boston. We want to go to Vegas. And then Atlantic City opened. So everybody would go there because it's a lot closer. Now there are casinos everywhere. Why? They were so against it. It's immoral. It's wrong. It's going to lead to gambling problems. And maybe some or all of that is true. But once they discovered, revenue, there's money, we can justify it then. We could temper our stance on morality by saying, well, the money will go to build schools or maintain roads or pay cops and firefighters. All good things. But I think it's going to be the same with cannabis. As more states make it legal, the neighboring states aren't going to want to lose out on that because people will just cross borders and buy things over there. Now, for me, Canada did it the right way. Nationally legal all at once. I don't know what it's like there. I don't know anything about the product. I don't know the pushback. I try to read up on it now and again, but they did I think what we should do, and that's just my personal opinion, but again, so many people are really being helped uh, by this CBD THC combination. Sometimes just CBD, sometimes just THC. But who are we to say? I did a radio interview that you'll also see on one of these episodes, and it was in Kentucky again. And the great radio host Leland Conway asked me. He said, "A lot of politicians listen to my show, Jack. What would you say to them?" Now, who am I to say? Who am I to tell anybody how to do their job? I can barely do mine. But I would like to think if politicians are not just about politics, but policy, and they really want to do right by their constituents, why wouldn't they let something into the marketplace, not only for economic reasons, but for the most important, to let that be absorbed, I guess, into their state in all the legal regulated ways you could possibly do it, if it's gonna relieve suffering, pain, and all of these things that people have been touting about. Why wouldn't you allow that? It mystifies me. But politicians play the game. It's too many times about staying in power, I think. I don't want to be a cynic about it, but I have eyes and ears. Angie, how has your family accepted your new way of healing? Oh, that's a good question. Listen, when you go through cancer, you suddenly understand that people give you a little more latitude. And they want you to get better. It doesn't matter. They could be totally against it. And that's why there's been such a blossoming of CBD and THC acceptance, because you're against it until someone in your family is suffering and they use it. Then it becomes, oh, well, it's okay for Aunt Betty or for my husband or my wife or whatever, or for my kid or my dog. That's okay. Well, then, but you're being a hypocrite. If you say only you can use it, it should be available for everyone. Nobody in my family had a problem with that. They know I'm not a drug user. My father was, so I couldn't be because it ruined his life. So I wanted to learn from the sins of my father, as they say. I know that marijuana is not the same as heroin or Dilaudid, which is what he was shooting in his veins. But at the same time, I understand now how much it helps people. And my family and friends did too. And they said, hey, man, if that's what you need to get better, to either get over the cancer or the pain, the suffering from the chemo, you should do it. So they were very accepting. I could have just said that, saved the last 10 minutes. Tammy Painter Smith, I use a topical CBD with THC for my bone pain from chemotherapy. Good for you. Yeah, I found topicals to work very well. I was an athlete most of my life, and I mean that in a casual setting, but I would play hours and hours of basketball or football or racquetball. Anything I could get my hands on, I would play, and I just loved every bit of it. And then I played softball for years. But I was clumsy. I would fall down. I get hit in the head with something, you couple of street fights or hockey sticks hitting you, and it all adds up. And my knees are sore, my ankles, my back especially. So I found topicals are really good. I wonder though, Tammy Painter Smith, do you have a policy at your job about THC in your system? And does it get absorbed into the skin? I would imagine it does, but how much does it go into the blood? Let me know if you can. Denise Wilson. Hi, Jack. Great show. Thanks. Oh, thank you. And I swear that's not my mother's or my sister or someone who likes me. I think they do. My Lucy is this is Penny again. Thank you, Penny. My Lucy is a 45-pound senior Brittany. I had a dropper full to her food every morning before we started this. She was literally licking paint off the walls when I went to work. It has really helped her from anxiety, separation anxiety. Dogs have this strange thing that they live in a way that I would love to live more so in the moment. They don't know if you were gone 10 minutes or 10 years, but they always think when you're gone, that's it. You've broken up. They're never going to see you again. Or too many dogs do, from stories I hear. And so I'm glad that the CBD is working. That's really wonderful. And a dropper. I've heard so many stories. There's biscuits. As a matter of fact, from the show, I don't want to preview too much another episode, but I ate a dog biscuit because they said it's fit for humans and it has CBD. There's nothing any different from that than a granola bar. So I bought it because I'm kind of gullible that way, and I just thought it would make fun television. And it was great. It tasted good. I wouldn't have known. Jennifer Fitucci said, I've actually used a one-on-one lotion so far, a 1-to-1 ratio. That's 1 part THC, 1 part CBD. And so far, I haven't failed a test yet. Oh, that's great. Happy to hear that. Because I know there is still, I don't want to keep using the word stigma, but, they see you as a druggie. Let's just put it that way. Let's just be honest. If you have THC in your system, they think whatever they think, I don't know. But I've heard people say things like, they're out partying, they're just getting high all the time, they're irresponsible, lazy, slovenly, all these things. And it's not really that, is it? I mean, sure, that happens, but you could say that about anything. It's not about the substance. It's about the abuse, as my friend Charlie Shaughnessy said. And so these things are not inherently evil, whether it's beer, wine, liquor, or CBD and THC. It's how you use them and what you do from that point on. You can abuse anything, I suppose. You could do something too much. Doesn't matter what it is. But if you find something that gets you into that place where you feel good about yourself, you feel great about waking up in the morning, you look forward to the day, as opposed to people who are in so much pain, they get depressed. And then what? Take antidepressants? I have a friend, and you'll meet him later on another episode, who they gave antidepressants to, and painkiller, and sleeping medication. That's dangerous because he was having all of these symptoms. He went to CBD, THC, and he put away all the drugs. How could you be against that? No one's claiming it's the greatest thing on earth. This is not a commercial or an infomercial. I'm not touting any products. As a matter of fact, when people ask me, I say, I don't know. It's up to you. Go ask for recommendations from friends. I know what I use from time to time. I jump back and forth. But this is not about that. This is just about saying, get educated, because with education and knowledge, there is power. Michelle Lucero, CBD has kept my daughter's seizures under control. My husband also takes CBD without THC for occipital neuralgia. Both take their CBD by dropper. And I'm sorry if I'm a little shaky on the reading of that. I'm reading it for the first time. Or it's a cold reading, as they say in the acting world. I think that's wonderful. I know Michelle Lucero. She has a wonderful family, and her daughters are friends of mine. And Michelle, her daughter Priscilla just turned 19, and she's afflicted with Costello syndrome. And she has another daughter, Tony, who has Down syndrome. And how could you deny these people when you see the love that, and I'm going to give them names, Michelle and Ray Lucero have for their whole family, and Zeke as well. He's not afflicted, thankfully. But the love they have for their daughters. And you say, you can't give them that. Well, why would you be for anti-seizure medication, but not for something natural? Why? Yes, it can be abused. Yes, she's a kid. She's a teenager, but she has seizures. Not only does that affect quality of life, it could kill you. So why could you look someone like that in the eye and say, I'm so against cannabis that it offends me when you give it to your daughters so they don't have seizures. Your husband shouldn't take it, even though it gives him quality of life. I want you to think about that. And then here comes the episode. Click on the link. We'll show you as we go out. And it's nice spending time with you. Thank you. We'll see you next time on The High Road.